Votes for the year, which is something to take away from it, I suppose. But look, I'd be lying if I said I wasn't disappointed, yeah.
We would farewell so many great players at the end of '97. We would say farewell to Stephen Kernahan, to Chris Langford, Gary Ablett, Paul Couch, Mark Harvey and Greg Williams. St Kilda would start warm favourites to win their first flag since 1966. They started magnificently and produced one of the great grand final goals.
60 out. Will he take them all on? Handball inside to Thompson. A fumble. Back. Aussie Jones goes with the left. Kicks it and gets it. What a goal. Well, they'll talk about that one for a while.
Blight would go in at half-time 2 goals down. The second half would be memorable. Darren Jarman would kick 6.
With him was Zilla. Jarman again, round the body. That'll do. Oh, that will do.
And Adelaide, with an 8-goal final quarter, would take their first AFL premiership. A new tune would rule the airwaves.
Well, I guess I've been surprised at the rate of the corporatisation of footy, I guess, more than anything else. I mean, it's not so long ago where we were dealing with suburban grounds on a regular basis, and now, with the going of Waverley and Victoria Park, I mean, it is a corporate entity, and there's no doubt about it, that the game itself and the players are big corporate players now. And that's a great fear and concern for the grassroots supporter, but I'm hoping that the League and the Commission, and I think they're smart enough to bear that in mind.
There would be only one team in the 90s that would win back-to-back premierships. In 1998, Malcolm Blight and his Adelaide Crows did what Collingwood, Hawthorn, Essendon, West Coast, Carlton and the Kangaroos all failed to achieve.
If you win 1, it's great. You know, you've had a great little time. If you win 2, I mean, no one does that. And if you win 3, it's a miracle. I mean, you can't be pulling the strings to win 3 in this comp.
From pre-season Ansett Cup, it was obvious just who would be the heavyweight challenger for Blight and his men. In the last quarter of the grand final against St Kilda, Wayne Carey kicked 4 goals to take the Kangaroos' second title in 3 years. The King would win the Michael Tuck medal as well. The season would start at a torrid pace. Brownlow medalist Harvey in the sights in round 1. The AFL would experiment with twilight football on Saturday afternoons. Collingwood opening with a 39-point win over the Hawks in front of nearly 50,000. Sydney and the Roos had done a player trade. Hugely talented rookie Shannon Grant coming to Arden Street. Former club champion Wayne Schwass going to the Swans and starring on debut.
This will be interesting as a goal. Is it going to count?
One of the best early season games saw an injury-depleted Carlton fail by a point against Essendon at the MCG on Easter Monday. Nearly 70,000 saw a heart-stopper. Melbourne had appointed former Essendon captain Neil Danaher as coach and lured young ruckman Jeff White from Fremantle. Their turnabout was remarkable. They withered in the Fremantle heat, welcomed favourite son Gary Lyon back against North in round 2 and then notched 5 successive wins. A 2-point victory over Carlton would prove costly, as star forward David Neitz broke his ankle and ruckman Jimmy Steins his hand in 3 places. After 244 games without a miss, the Iron Man was finally sidelined. It was a record that spoke volumes of Steins's courage and consistency. There were those who were prepared to bid farewell to Bulldog Tony Liberatore when he badly damaged his knee against Sydney. He'd strung together 165 games in a row, but vowed to be back. And he would too, in record time. Adelaide too would suffer from a tough decision, this time against Sean Wren. It would be all too costly. North successful by 4 points. While Brisbane won its first game of the season against Richmond, the talk was of goal umpires. Katrina Presley becoming the first woman to officiate at an AFL game. For the 20th time in his remarkable career, Tony Lockett kicked 10 goals. With the Swans hit hard by the loss of Schwass and Roos, Lockett guided his side to a memorable win over Collingwood. Libber was back for the Bulldogs, albeit in the crowd. Against North in round 7, he saw the Dogs kick 8 final quarter goals to swamp the Roos. Off the field, Kevin Sheedy was looking for support at Essendon as his Bombers slumped to 2 wins from 7 games. There was talk of dissension within the ranks, but Sheedy just kept on coaching. Malcolm Blight took another course. When his Crows were thumped by Richmond, he grabbed his entourage and walked out, onto the ground and around to the rooms, with the game still in progress. The 2 greatest full forwards of the 90s would meet one last time at the SCG in May. Dunstall would kick 4, but at the other end Lockett was in superlative form, kicking 11 goals. Along the way, he would pass the 1,200 goal mark.
Here he goes, Lee. I'm sorry, but this is for 1,200. And he's done it! Parker has joined a very elite group. Goal number 1,200.
Lockett and Dunstall, the only 2 living 1,200 goal spearheads. There would be other milestones. Stan Alls would become only the 2nd man after Alan Jeans to coach St Kilda to 100 games. And Carlton, with their 8th straight loss, this time to North, would have their worst run since the turn of the century. There would be a major drug story in 1998. Brisbane's Alistair Lynch admitting to taking an anabolic steroid, DHEA, to combat his well-publicised bout of chronic fatigue syndrome. 5 sittings over 20 hours and a split decision by the tribunal cleared Lynch.
That was difficult, and it wasn't... I mean, I didn't realise when I was charged, I just thought it'd go. I thought it'd disappear. I thought, you know, surely this can't go to the tribunal because of, I thought it was an obvious case of I was doing the right thing of being prescribed, and I'd went to the AFL to seek approval. But, yeah, it dragged on for a while, and I must admit it got pretty scary at some stages. So I'm just glad it went the way it was, and, you know, it was cleared.
There would be no more amazing match in the 90s than the Bulldogs and the Eagles in Perth. The Dogs opened with 8 goals to 0, and the Eagles responded in the second quarter with 8 goals to 0. In an amazing game, the Eagles would win by 13 points. Severio Rocker kicked 11 to single-handedly beat Fremantle. And John Northey was under intense pressure as coach of Brisbane as his side let Carlton in for their 2nd win of the season. After a 71-point loss to Fremantle, Northey was sacked and replaced by his assistant and former captain Roger Merritt. The handling of Northey's dismissal by President Noel Gordon led to further internal shake-ups as highly respected board member Alan Piper resigned in protest. In round 12, history was made when the 6 non-Victorian sides all won for the first time on one weekend. Adelaide's 2-point win over Essendon, a pointer of things to come. With 52 goals for the season, Jason Dunstall was well on track to overtake the legendary goal-kicking mark of 1,299 set by Collingwood's Gordon Coventry in 1937. Tragedy struck in round 14 when he broke his collarbone, his season in tatters. Kevin Sheedy cranked up the publicity machine as he prepared to overtake Dick Reynolds' long-standing coaching mark of 415 games at Windy Hill. More than 83,000 saw Sheedy lead his men to an impressive win over his old side Richmond at the MCG. Sydney's hopes nosedived when skipper and Brownlow medalist Paul Kelly injured his knee against Port Adelaide. He would be sorely missed. Nothing, however, would stop Lockett's relentless drive towards another 100-goal season. 12 goals against the Power made it 74 for the year. Lockett's teammate Paul Roos became the 7th AFL player to reach 350 games a week later. Adelaide had crept into the top 8, but they too received an unexpected setback when they were beaten by Fremantle, despite 8 goals from Darren Jarman. Wayne Carey was having a season to remember. Against Melbourne, he was at his best with 8.